Hi, Dennis Weiss for the Eisenhower Presidential Library and Museum, our Why Like Ike show. Welcome to our December special. We have William Snyder, who's curator here.
Hi, Dennis.
And we have William and Mary today, and Mary Bertzlav is an archivist here. So glad to have you, Mary.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're the Christmas card specialist today.
Yes, that is right. And I've brought a selection to show everyone. This very simple and rather elegant card right here is the first official White House Christmas card that was ever issued. Actually, Franklin Roosevelt began the tradition of sending White House Christmas cards, but it was the Eisenhower administration that actually developed an official one. And I also wanted to share with you the 1958 card. Each year, there were actually 3 different versions of the White House Christmas cards. There's the nice, very official card, and then there is a more informal version that was sent to friends. This particular year, they used a view of the boyhood home and the Eisenhower Museum that we're in today. The more informal version also featured what appears to be handwritten greetings from the President and First Lady. And finally, there was a third very formal but very small card that went out to acquaintances.
Very cool. William, you know, we have the opportunity to look at a lot of things here at the library because that's what the library does, is store pieces of history so people can have relevant insight into the administration and career of Dwight David Eisenhower.
That's right.
We've never done this piece before.
No, we've got some really interesting pieces in the collection that range from Ike and Mamie's early years together into their later years in the presidency, and some in terms of the gifts they gave each other or the gifts they received from other people.
You know, we have behind us on the wall, we really have a family photograph.
Yes, we do.
It's easy to forget that the most influential and powerful person in the world, Dwight David Eisenhower, at the time the President of the United States since World War II. That title kind of has applied everywhere to every president.
That's right.
But he was just the family guy too. And they had Christmas in the White House.
That's right.
And we have the pleasure of seeing many of the things that people sent President Eisenhower and his family.
To start with, the earliest piece we have in Christmas is this wonderful program from 1920 in Camp Meade when Ike was in charge of the early tank battalions and training corps. It's a program from their Christmas dinner that they held for all of the men
Ike
in the
is a
tank
major.
corps. Major Eisenhower,
Very
absolutely. Cool. Following up right on that is a very personal gift that I absolutely love. This little hand-woven basket was made by Ike and Mamie's son, John, for Christmas 1929. So this was made when he was 7 years old.
Yeah.
And the wonderful little tag says to Mother Dear from John.
Well, I'm glad I'm not the only one that sticks the little hand-woven stuff from the kids in the closet, so,
That's
or
right.
the sock drawer.
That's right. We were fortunate enough that we were able to get it. And then in 1940 and 41, when they were stationed at Fort Lewis in Washington State, Ike purchased this set of china for Mamie with a picture of the original gate for Fort Lewis on it.
Wow. From Fort Lewis, Washington. Okay. Fort Meade.
And Fort Meade, yes, Camp Meade.
Okay,
That's
so,
right.
and I say that for a reason. You know, we think of President Eisenhower, but before he was president, he was a general, and before he was a general, he was a major.
That's right.
So, and before all of that, we're going to do another program on some early life, but Mr. Eisenhower was just a boy, and then he was a man, and then he was a cadet, and then he was a leader in the military and became the leader of the free world during that time.
That's right.
And he was from Abilene, Kansas.
Yes, always got to remember that.
And you folks have so many things for people to see here.
Yes.
What's the statue to my left?
Well, this is a replica of the infant Jesus of Prague. It holds a special place in the hearts of the people of the city of Prague in Czechoslovakia. The original was made in the 1600s and performed various miracles, including saving the city from a second invasion by the King of Sweden in 1639, if I remember correctly. And this replica was given to the Eisenhowers in 1955 by the Bishop of Chicago at the time.
Okay, all right. Mary, you're an archivist. An archivist is a fancy word for?
Well, it's a person who works with documents, original documents, photographs, all the nuts and bolts of history is what I like to call it.
Okay.
And we're a bit different from a librarian because instead of working with published materials, we are working with the products of people's daily work and their daily lives. And part of the collections here at the Eisenhower Library are Christmas cards. The Eisenhowers, as you may imagine, received many, many, many thousands of Christmas cards from all over the world, from many ordinary people, and from some extraordinary people as well. I have a selection from some foreign leaders here, but I wanted to begin by showing you all some cards from foreign leaders who are also personal friends of the Eisenhowers.
Please do. This has an interesting upside-down picture on it. Go
Yes,
ahead.
it certainly does. This card right here is signed Elizabeth and Philip. And as you might guess, this is Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip. This particular one is from 1954, but the British royal family was always sent the Eisenhowers a card. They had come to know him during World War II when Eisenhower was the supreme commander. And in their cards, which often featured family photographs, you can see the children getting older. You can see Elizabeth growing into her role as queen. And actually, I have an even earlier card right here. This is from Queen Elizabeth's father, King George VI, and her mother, Queen Elizabeth.
52.
Yes, this actually is wishing the Eisenhowers goodwill in the year of 1952. It was actually sent in 1951, just shortly before King George died. So it was the last, would have been the last Christmas card that the Eisenhowers received from King George. I also, let's see, have one here from Winston and Clementine Churchill. Just a very simple card, but it features one of Churchill's paintings. And the concept of using reproduction of a personal painting was one that Dwight Eisenhower adopted in later years, as he was also a painter, just like Winston.
As an archivist charged with the care and protection of these documents, that has to be a rewarding day for you?
It certainly is. When I was choosing some of these documents to show everybody, that was a really special day, and I did think about the fact that here I am in Abilene, Kansas, being able to handle some of these materials that were signed by some very famous people.
I haven't had this thought before, but I had it today. In Abilene, the outside world, outside of this building, we have a lot of people who are interested in preservation of our architecture, of our way of life, of many things in Abilene, Kansas. It makes Abilene, Abilene. What a more fitting place to talk about how a community has an identity than probably the place that drives our identity. Not many places in the world, well, 13 NARA libraries here in our country, presidential libraries, 13. We have one in Abilene, Kansas that preserves the record of history around probably the most significant time in our nation's history from the founding, is when we were able to stay a country and spread freedom throughout the world. Very cool job you do, Mary.
Thank you.
William, we have a Hanukkah on the table.
We certainly do. This was a gift from Rabbi Klein of New York City to Ike and Mamie during the holidays of 1958.
That's a specially modified menorah at the time. Hanukkah is a festival of lights, so we have 9 candles. You have 4 on each side and 1 in the middle. This is the servant candle. That's the Hanukkah that you light the other candles with. So very cool to see that. I so appreciate the fact that I get a chance to sit here and look at it.
Yes, it's a wonderful piece. We do have a few other pieces of Judaica that we will be putting out for the holiday season when we also decorate the library building. And Mary mentioned art and adopting how Ike adopted using his paintings for Christmas cards. On the other table, we do have, for the 100th anniversary of the end of the Civil War, the Eisenhowers sent out their Christmas card from Gettysburg Farm with a portrait of Abraham Lincoln that Eisenhower had painted in 1953.
Dave will get a good close-up shot of that, but you showed that to me before we turned the camera on. That's inspiring. It looks to be a copy of the handwritten speech from Abraham Lincoln at Gettysburg, and very, very cool.
Very important, and certainly the Eisenhower's farm is right against the battlefield, so it's a wonderful location. I think meant a lot to both of them.
Yeah. Okay. So as a holiday show, what do you think that it would be like, either one of you, as the President of the United States, to have Christmas with all the joy and all the fun and all the gifts, and every time you open something from somebody around the world, what do you think your first thought is? Oh, cool statue, or this came from this geopolitical part of the world and I have that meeting on Wednesday? That's the way my brain would work. I don't know, but what do you think, as you working in the industry?
Mary, you want to tackle that one first?
Well, I think it probably would be a little bit of both. Eisenhower was an interesting person to be president in the sense that he had dealt with an amazing number of world leaders prior to becoming president, and he actually knew quite a few of them. So, for instance, in the case of the British royals and some of the other senders of holiday cards that I have on the other table, some of these people were people whom he personally knew, and I'm sure he thought, oh yes, well that's nice to get a card from this person, and that they are to think about them for a moment. But I'm sure there was also some, as you say, some geopolitical considerations there. For instance, we have a lot of cards from the Middle East and so on, and there was, as today, there were some difficult geopolitical issues going on in the Middle East during the Eisenhower administration, and I'm sure he was aware when he got some of those cards that these are people who want me to be thinking positively of them when my country is dealing with their country.
Eisenhower, as you mentioned, when I read through the history of Eisenhower, I think he made friends easily during very stressful times. I think that's probably why he ended up being the supreme commander of the Allied effort, is his ability to get along with those difficult leaders that needed to be got along with. Yeah, so it's an amazing thing. For people watching, everybody faces challenges with relationships. Everybody's in some organization they wish were more efficient. What a great example in the picture on the wall behind us of a leader who knew how to get this done.
Absolutely.
All right, so exciting things. There's more exciting things laying over there that Dave will get a shot of after a bit, but there looks to be in the middle a Christmas nativity scene made out of mother of pearl.
Yes, that's a pretty impressive piece, and that is actually from the wife of the Prime Minister of Jordan. Was presented to the Eisenhowers at Christmas time in 1959. And interestingly, right next to it is an Eastern Orthodox icon figure of Mary and the baby Jesus that was given to Eisenhowers for the same Christmas, but from the King of Jordan, King Hussein I.
Wow, very cool.
And Mary brought over one of King Hussein's Christmas cards.
Really? Isn't that interesting? I say this all the time when I come here and we bring a camera, but it's so easy to see the relevance of Eisenhower in all things. And I mentioned as a joke to Tim on the way in, so did you hear the Eisenhower quote, name being quoted in a Republican presidential debate last week, and we chatted about it. But Eisenhower is so relevant to all things American because he was our president and leader at such a defining time in our history.
Definitely.
And his stuff is here.
Yes.
And they can come see it.
That's right.
And they can talk to wonderful people like you who can explain to them what they're looking at. I want to take us off tack a little bit. Sam didn't have this on the script,
so we can
you know,
change it?
we're just going to move over a little bit. But I think of the Christmas cards, and I think of the holiday display, and I think of kids. And we have kids on the wall behind us, a family picture. You know, how I know that there's a vibrant educational program here at the Presidential Library Museum. And gosh, if there's a battle that I'm confident Dwight David Eisenhower would want to be in, it's the battle for the hearts and minds of young people. And what a wonderful opportunity holidays are to put some history into the celebration.
That's an excellent point. He very was much about the family, much about children, but also about educating children and for being productive future citizens.
What's the most fun that you had finding these cards, Mary?
Oh, I would say the whole process was a lot of fun. I went through actually an entire box of Christmas cards from various foreign leaders, and there were just so many. It was really a struggle to choose just a few to potentially share with viewers today. But really, the big joy of archival work is getting to handle documents and memorabilia that people created long ago.
Yeah, I go through boxes of stuff at home too at times like this, but I don't have anything from the King of Jordan. So, there's the one difference, right? But I do it to remind me of those times. By looking at those things, touching those things, reading that card, reading that letter, looking at that photograph, it reminds me of that person and that time. This is a chance for the public to come and be reminded of the most influential president that we've had in the modern era. And it's here in Abilene, Kansas at the Eisenhower Presidential Library Museum.
It is.
Very cool. So what about you, William? As you prepared for 3 shows today,
Yes, 3 shows.
and of which the holiday special is but the first. As a curator, what's your point of view?
Well, I think that when you asked Mary about what the most fun was, one of the most fun things we have at the other table, as a surprise gift during Ike's first term in office, his cabinet got together, and since Ike was a painter, they surprised him with each of their own version of a paint by numbers as a gift for Christmas that year. And so we have just some wonderful and, not necessarily terribly well executed pieces of art by Ike's cabinet. And the one piece I did pull out was by his Attorney General, Herbert Brownell.
That's so funny for me to think about. In modern corporate thought and team building, you go do stupid stuff from time to time, right? Just to build the connectivity between the people and their ability to work together, and fun enhances that the rest of the year. I think Mr. Eisenhower was ahead of his time. Paint with the numbers is all right.
Absolutely. Very popular in the 1950s, but maybe because the president was a painter himself, but it was quite a surprise for him to get. I think we have about 24 paint by number pictures in the collection.
Yeah, you think of that. And whose do we have today?
His first Attorney General, Herbert
First
Brownell.
Attorney General took the time to do a paint by numbers as a
Yes.
gift for
Yes.
the President of the
That's
United
right.
States when he could have just sent somebody out to get something. I think that says a lot about the commitment to the man. As we wrap up our final minute, it's very cool to be able to sit here and film Why Like Ike. There's so many good reasons to like Ike.
There are.
And we're so blessed in the Abilene community to have his Presidential Library and Museum, which brings people like Marion and William to us to do their life's work here, and it brings a great gift of history to our community. Boy, I sure appreciate the chance to sit with you today. Pleasure to meet you, Mary.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to meet you, Dennis.
Yes, as I never thought about Christmas cards, but what a terrific look into the history of the United States. William, as always, thank you for your professionalism and your hospitality.
My pleasure, Dennis. Anytime.
Folks, we hope you enjoyed Why Like Ike Holiday Edition. The pictures you see on camera here today are available for you to stand in front of and look at through the display. We encourage you to come enjoy your Presidential Library and Museum. For Eagle Communications and the Dwight David Eisenhower Presidential Library and Museum, I'm Dennis Weiss. Have a great day.